Testing. Should we just test? Oh, my hair's a mess.
Hi guys, so welcome. That is such nicer quality. Look at that.
Yeah, but
beautiful.
But the audio quality is more important than the visual quality.
Yeah, but I don't like it with that microphone. Hi guys, and welcome to a Panic in Me podcast. So I'm Deima.
And I'm Olivia, and today we're talking about dealing with triggers, which is something that I've learned about in therapy before, and can be really important to deal with your mental health. I feel like we're just like looking back and forth at each other. But yeah, so should we just go straight into it?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Do you know what a trigger is?
Something that sets you off to go into that panic state, that anxious feelings, heart racing.
Yeah, so a trigger can be like in any mental illness, really. Mm-hmm. So like it can trigger a panic attack, or it can trigger a depressive episode, or like a flashback or something like that. So for me, for example, one of my triggers is conflict. Mm-hmm. So if I have someone shouting at me, that's a trigger. Yeah. Shopping centres is a trigger for me, like as in supermarkets.
Yeah, too many people, busy.
Some people, if they have like a phobia, might have a specific trigger, like a spider or a dog or something. So like, what are your triggers?
Mine would be like when I'm writing or doing something and people watching. Mm-hmm. Like under that pressure of like watching me get something done, and I'll be like so much happier if they just left me alone to do it. Mm-hmm. Another trigger would be just like if I can feel myself blushing red, it will be like, oh my god, everyone is like noticing. So that will lead me into more of like a
lot of my triggers are like physical as well. So if I feel a little bit ill, or like if my heart's racing or something, that can trigger me.
Or when you
further.
exercise.
When I exercise has been a big trigger for me, which is like kind of a cruel thing, right? Because you're supposed to exercise to make yourself feel better, but because of the racing heart and the breathing, it'll make me have a panic attack. And triggers can be like internal and external, right? So all of the ones we've just named are more like external, right? So things that happen to us. But we can also have like internal triggers. So like when I feel like I'm like a failure in some way, that will trigger me. Yeah. And like the way we talk to ourselves and stuff can be a trigger too. So they can be really hard to deal with. It's really important to deal with triggers. And sorry, I'm going to move. But it's really important to deal with triggers. And basically the first step is literally just what we've done, which is identifying what your triggers are. And a really helpful way to do that is to keep a diary of your triggers over like a week or 2 weeks. So what made me feel anxious, depressed, whatever symptoms you have, and noting it down. And it can be really helpful because like you can't combat a problem before you have it, before you know it, right?
Writing it down, write down the thoughts that you're having. And what else could
So like I suppose similar to what your therapy homework was this week, actually. Yeah. So you can write if you want to keep like a thorough record. Kind of what did you write down? Thoughts,
behaviour, and the kind of thought it was, because there's like so many different thoughts, like negative filter, making a mountain
out of a molehill.
Yeah, like those ones, there's so many of them. So noting what kind of thought it is, but it's sometimes more than one, so that's the difficult bit.
Yeah, but noting down the thought, how you feel about it, and then your behaviour is really important because you can see how you might be actually contributing to making yourself feel worse.
Writing down maybe like not a resolution as per se, but a better way to think it. Thinking it in more of a positive way.
Yeah, so you already take us on to like the second stage. Okay. So the second stage is just to understand that you can actually control your reaction to these triggers. Yeah. Right? which is saying, you know, you can't control your thoughts, your feelings, and we'll get on to that. But you can control your behaviour more often than not. Obviously, there are a few occasions where you can't. But, you know, you can sit down and go, you know, I don't have to run away from this, or I don't have to act angrily at this person. And understanding what is in your control, and your behaviour always is. And that's why noting down your behaviour can help you understand how you're contributing to making the situation even more difficult for yourself.
One main thing to think about is like, so the thing that you're worrying about or is triggering your anxiety is, will it matter tomorrow? Will it matter in a month? Or will it matter in a year? And that kind of puts things into perspective. But like, obviously no thought is ever like, not like, it's not worthless, but it's just more of like taking a step back and thinking, does it actually matter? Because like, I don't know about you, but some thoughts that I have are absolutely pointless, and there's just like no point in actually worrying about it, but they just come, and it's like, it doesn't actually even matter, but in that moment you're like
and then you get fixated on that. You can tell that you've been in therapy, because step number 3 is like noticing that you might not be able to control your thoughts or feelings, right? But you can accept them.
Yeah.
You can accept them. You can say, okay, I'm feeling scared, but, you know, you don't necessarily have to give in to that feeling.
Don't get on that train.
Yeah. So, like, there's what Damon's talking about there is, like, there's the idea of kind of thoughts are like a train coming into a station.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get on it. You can just let it go.
Yeah.
Some people like to think like thoughts are like clouds. I used to say like a thought is like a rabbit, and you don't have to chase it down the rabbit hole.
I like the train idea.
Yeah, but different ones will speak to different people.
Because it's like, you're getting on that train. Do you want to get on that train? Like, here's the train. Yeah. But like, do you have to? No.
Yeah, but you can choose to, you know, if it's a helpful thought.
Yeah.
But
of course.
Yeah, definitely. But in a way you have control over the thoughts that come into your brain over time. As you give more time to positive thoughts, I think you naturally think more positive.
It's just trying to train you into more of a positive thinking. But one thing that I've just learned so much is a thought is just a thought. And I just love that. I absolutely love that. And I'll probably take that with me for the rest of my life. A thought is just a thought.
And a feeling is just a feeling.
Yeah, you like to say that.
I like to say that too, yeah. Because, you know, just because you're sad, or just because you're angry, or just because you're scared, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to act in a way that makes you feel more terrible, right? And by that, so, you know, like when you're sad, what kind of music might you put on?
Sad music.
But don't do that, because then you're going to be more sad. If you're sad and you don't want to be sad, then put on happy music.
Yes.
You know, if you're feeling sad and you don't want to, you know, don't watch a really sad movie. You know, don't keep. But
sometimes that helps, because you can get emotions out and cry.
Yeah, but that's, you know, that's in a case of like, if you're comfortable in your sadness, then that's okay. And, you know, sometimes we all want to watch a good movie and have a little cry, and that's fine. We're not trying to avoid sadness. We're just not trying to get into a place where we're in despair.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So, like, the fourth, so kind of, as we've said, you know, you have to understand that you can control your reaction, as in your behaviour, but that you can't control your thoughts and feelings, but that you can accept them, and that they don't have any power necessarily over you. So, like, the fourth step really is to think, how do I want to respond to the situation? So, you know, with me, my one of my triggers is conflict. So being shouted at. So before that trigger happens, I might think, how am I going to deal with it if somebody is shouting at me? And in that situation, I could shout back, I could get angry, I could start crying, you know, because I feel scared or I feel angry. But usually, you know, what I decide to do is, well, first I communicate a boundary with the people in my life that I do not take being shouted at. I won't communicate with you if you're just going to shout at me. And it require you to like kind of go away, calm down and come back. I'll always communicate with somebody if they're in, you know, they can be angry at me, they can be sad at me, they can be disappointed in me, that's absolutely fine. But like the shouting and the raised voices,
that's what you don't take,
I won't take that. So, you know, if somebody's shouting at me, I'll remove myself from that situation. And I'll say, you know, talk to me again, you know, when you're feeling like you can communicate it without kind of raising your voice and using like unnecessary insults. Is another thing I don't accept.
One thing that I struggle with is, sorry to interrupt you,
okay,
but like when you're texting and it's like you're having some sort of conflict, but it's over text. And it's like you want to say some things, but it's like you got to step back and like actually think about that's necessary to say it. So take a bit of time to actually.
Yeah. So removing yourself can definitely be a positive reaction, but not if you're going to remove yourself forever. Yeah. So if you're like, oh, this person shouted at me, I'm removing myself and I'm never going to talk to them again, that's not necessarily a good thing. But that's going on to boundaries, and we'll definitely do a podcast on that.
Yes.
Because that's something you want to do, and boundaries are great. But actually, removing yourself isn't always a great reaction.
Right.
So if you take like my other trigger, say the supermarket. So I start to feel a panic attack coming on. A good idea is it's not to remove myself from the panic attack, from the supermarket, because I'm not in danger. My brain is telling me I am for some reason. But actually a good way to react to that might be stand still, do some breathing exercise until I feel safe again, and then carry on with my shopping to kind of train my brain. So, you know, different reactions will be appropriate to different triggers. And it's helpful to sit down, look at your list of triggers, look at your behaviour and think, you know, how would I like to act next time? And try
the thing is, when I'm like in a supermarket and there's like so many people, I don't feel like that I'm in danger, but I feel like it's just too many people that I can handle. What kind of thing would you do in that situation?
No, I'd do the same.
Yeah.
I would, if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, obviously mine is a fear of panic attacks, yours is a social anxiety, so kind of the feelings that the trigger evokes might be different for everyone.
Yeah.
But removing yourself from that supermarket is not necessarily you know, the best idea, because you're teaching yourself that it's right, or
I can go again.
So, you know, finding yourself a more quiet corner of the supermarket, calming down for a few minutes and then carrying on.
The cereal aisle.
And just stopping and calming down for a little while, I think. Taking someone else, you know, but yeah, so I think like that's really the main way to deal with triggers, is identify them and work out how you want to react to them in the future. But like a couple of bonus things you can do is, one of them is like communicate to other people in your life. You know, before I go food shopping with somebody, I say, you know, this might be an overwhelming experience for me, so I might need to kind of step back and take a few minutes to breathe so that I can carry on. And I'd really appreciate you if you could support me in that.
You said it to me in Aldi when doing the checkout, and I completely understand you when the checkout lady is like, oh, everyone knows how it is at Aldi and Lidl, it's like quickly get everything in. So Olivia was like, Deima, you take control of packing everything. I'm like, that's fine.
Because I know that that's one of my triggers, and you know, it's okay to ask for help.
Even one time I was in Lidl and I actually said, can you please slow down? I cannot like cope. I'm just by myself, you know.
But they're doing their job, and they're told to get through. People like to get the prices down, but who knows. But yeah, you know, and also another thing, you know, is like setting boundaries, which we will do in another podcast. But I say to people, you know, I won't communicate. I'm unable to communicate with you when you're shouting at me because I'm too anxious. So, you know, I communicating with others makes it easier because it means that you can potentially avoid some of your triggers more often. But you are the one that, you know, is responsible for your triggers at the end of the day. But, you know, it can be helpful to communicate with others. And I think, like, the last thing, again, we always say is, like, be kind to yourself in this process. Because sometimes, you know, you might write down all your triggers, say, I've acted like this, I want to act like this. And then just out of, like, habit, you go back into, like, the behaviour that you don't want to. And that's okay. It's a learning process. We're all learning here.
It's not going to help beating yourself down.
No. But, you know,
positivity will help you.
Absolutely. But every step of the way, you know, when every time you choose to kind of act in the way you wanted to towards a trigger, you're winning that battle. It's important to remember that. So yeah, I think that's everything I want to say. Is there anything you want to add? Or
that is all.
Sums it up. Right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks for listening to my little rant.
Bye.